Good afternoon, everyone. Wow, that mic is hot. Welcome to the August 11th meeting of the Brentwood Rotary Club. My name is Drew Rogers. I have the privilege of, as club president for this year. I'm excited to see a full room and excited that all of you guys are here. I'm also excited about our speaker, Alan Arender. He and I go way back, as I might have mentioned in our reflections. And whether you love the program or hate the program today, I can speak to the quality of his character because Alan and I had infant age children at church at the same time. And so if you ever really want to know how good of a person someone is, go to church with little kids, and then you can figure out how good of a person they are. And so I can tell you that Alan's a great person. We're going to start with an invocation by Laura Troop and the pledge and four-way test led by Jennifer Ruane. Laura.
Let's bow. Creator God, forgive our foolish ways. Help us to find our right minds and stop worrying about things that don't matter. Restore our reverence for you by renewing our commitment to serving one another and this community. Open our eyes to see the needs around us and give us resolve to venture closer to the margins so we are aware of the needs of those who don't look like us, act like us, hurt like us, or live like us. Prevent us from being easily offended. Pry open our tight fists to be more generous, more helpful, and more loving. Allow us to always look for your image in each other. Fill our hearts with joy for those among us who are celebrating, and increase our sympathy and compassion to those who are grieving. Return to us the friends who we are missing today, and send us out of this place with your peace. In the name of Jesus, amen.
I'm channeling my inner Jennifer Ruane right now. Please face the flag and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First,
Is it true?
second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
third,
Will it build better friendships?
fourth.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
We certainly hope so.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. That was wonderful. Appreciate you standing in, Linus, on behalf of Jennifer. And thank you, Laura, for delivering the invocation. Before I kick it over to Jennifer Bourne to introduce our guests and visiting Rotarians, as you know, we were formed 50 years ago today, or not today, but we were formed 50 years ago. This is our 50th anniversary as a club. So if you were curious about what was happening 50 years ago today, today is the day 50 years ago that American Graffiti was released, a film by George Lucas. So there you go. American Graffiti, 50 years ago. Jennifer, go ahead.
On that, we have lots of guests here today. So I'm going to start first with our visiting Rotarian. This is Leanne. She's from the Brentwood Noon Rotary Club. I've just said Brentwood Noon, like you're not here at
Well done.
Brentwood. Franklin Noon Rotary Club.
Hi there. First of all, congratulations on 50 years. Exciting. Happy for you. My name is Leanne Didier. I am with the Franklin Noon Rotary Club. You might be familiar with us. We put on the rodeo and lots of other great things. My husband and I, on a professional level, we own Hippie Radio 94.5. So if you are doing some things like as it relates to your club and your organization for public service announcements and whatnot, if you're interested in having my business card, come up and grab me. And then I just wanted to introduce Brooke. She recently moved here from Florida. She is an Auburn graduate. And so she started working with us just a couple of weeks ago. And so I invited her to come along as my guest.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Where you going?
War Eagle.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Where's Bob? We've got two people, past visitors. Bob Thompson. He's in the process of membership right now. He's working through that process. So thank you for coming back. And then we've got Tim over here. If you haven't gotten to know him, please meet him. He has also submitted an application today. All right. So Drew, you want to introduce Matt?
Yeah. Yeah, we got plenty. Now I'm just going the handheld mic to show that I'm just introducing a guest right now, Kev. Matt McCall has joined us for the second time. Matt is the CFO of American Constructors, a Brentwood-based general construction company. We're grateful to have him, and Matt is also interested in membership with our club.
Welcome, Matt. All right, you're next, Kip.
This is my friend Tracy Miller. He's raised here, born here. He's also the Williamson County Republican Party Chair. His wife Cindy also is the elected representative that we all vote for, that Republicans vote for. So thank you. State Executive Committee, thank you. Thank you for that.
Is it
detail.
Tracy Miller. Tracy, wonderful. Welcome, Tracy.
Yeah. All right, and we've got one more over here, Laura.
This is my friend Lloyd Soders. Lloyd is a fellow baseball dad, and he and his son and family are very special to Chad and me. He is a contractor working in the utilities. Okay, I was
Welcome, Lloyd.
All right, thank you guys. Welcome.
Wonderful. Well, welcome to all of our guests and visiting Rotarians. We're glad that you're here. I have a couple of announcements before I turn it over to Jared for Happy Bucks. Actually, there are several announcements, and that's why I wanted to get started a little early. Did Assistant Chief Colvin join us or no? No. So I'm going to call on Chief Brian Goss. We know now who wins in the Battle of the Badges. It's clearly the fire department. So Chief Goss.
Well. This was his opportunity to rebut, but guess what? Apparently the hot light was on. Just a reminder that August 16th and 17th, Battle of the Badges will be taking place at John P. Holt Brentwood Library. Again, this is one of their largest events of the year. We usually fill the schedule. Extremely important during these summer months to get that blood product. So if you could, again, the 16th and 17th of August, John P. Holt Library, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it's the long blood drive. I recommend getting in early before they get tired. So any questions, you can see me afterward. And again, this is the 10th anniversary of the Battle of the Badges. It's in honor of our former assistant police chief who actually did attend Rotary regularly, Tommy Walsh, and my former deputy fire chief, who's now the fire chief in Nolensville, David Windrow. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief Goss. And that was, we will make sure that that Assistant Chief Colvin knows of your contribution today and what the fire department did that the police department was unable to do. I'm going to call on Larry Kane next to give us 5 minutes on a golf tournament update. Larry?
First of all, I have to ask Laura, how did you classify yourself as a fellow baseball dad? So I had a guest coming today, and unfortunately, I don't guess she's going to make it, but I had a call earlier this week from Taylor Swift. And is that unusual? Anyway, y'all know who Taylor Swift is. Anyway, she called, unusual background story. You know, she came to Nashville in 2003 with her family from New Jersey. And just a young 14-year-old girl who had some songs and a pretty good voice and wanted to do some things. And they told her to come to Nashville. So she came here. Anyway, how I got hold of her, I called her and asked her, you know, how'd that work? And she said, well, she said, it was pretty simple. She said, I had to go around to a lot of recording studios and things. And I just asked. I just asked if they listened to my recordings or read my music. And so that's how I got started. Y'all didn't know that was where that was going, did you? Okay. So we're 30 days out from our tournament, 30 days from today. We're about 80% of where we need to be fundraising wise. We've got 49 outstanding sponsorships. Anybody wants to see the list? Here it is. 49 outstanding sponsorships that were sold last year that we've not gotten this year. Included on this list, embarrassment, were 11 Rotarians. That's down to 7 now. I got 4 of those in today. So look, you 7 folks who did your own thing last year, do your own thing again this year, please. And the rest of us who need to call on these other businesses that we haven't called on yet, who did helped us last year, please call on them. We got $17,800 outstanding in that category. That would be a huge help to us in making our goal. So please do that. Now, good news. The King got started this week. Y'all know who the King is? Who's the King? Jared. Jared went out, finally got started Thursday. He only sold 14 sponsorships on Thursday. 14. Now that's not, as you all know, that's about half of what he's going to sell. But he just decided he'd get started, so he sold 14. So thank you, Jared. Good job, man. 3 of those were new, so he qualifies for the incentive, so he gets a gift card, restaurant gift card, so that's good. Get some more of that. But I really want to recognize one person who has just outdone himself, and that's Bart King. So, hey, Bart, come up here. So Bart, as I mentioned last week, says he's not finished yet, but you understand Bart sold, I think, 3 sponsorships last year, if I remember right, 3 or 4. Bart has sold 13 so far this year. 13 sponsorships. 10 of that 13 are new sponsors. So that is awesome. That's what I told Bart the other day, and even I said, if I had 10 of y'all, this would be an easy job. I mean, good gracious. So, you know, Bart qualified for the $100 gift certificate with his first 3. He's got 10. So I went ahead and did a little more than that. I asked him what his favorite restaurants were, and he told me it was Connor's, Mayor Bull's, Bonefish, and Stony River. He'd take some to any of those. So what I did, Bart, I hope you don't mind, I did $50 to each one of those restaurants. So so you can go out and enjoy your favorite food at any of those 4 restaurants. And if you bring in 3 more, you'll get some more. Yeah. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Potential sponsor list. Everybody has this list, at least if you got it. You may not know where it is because it's in your folder that I gave you that you don't know where that is either. But you've got this list somewhere. So you're sitting there thinking, man, Bart sold 13. First time he's done. This guy over here is ripping. Who do I call? Okay. You might call your insurance agent or your doctor or your dentist or your lawn service or your church buddies. Right, Bart? Your broker, your financial advisor, your neighbor, your Sunday school class members, your golf buddies, your tennis group, your book club members, your relatives, somebody who hits you up all the time for something, school-wise. Hey, remember what high school is selling this $25 or $50, whatever thing with, okay, I buy it. Hey, you remember you sold me that? You helped me out now. And lastly, my favorite one, the rich guy who likes you. Remember, the number one reason why people give and buy sponsorships to things like events like golf tournaments is because they know and like the person presenting it. It's not the fact that it's a great club. It's not the fact that they know where the money's going. It's not the fact they want advertising. The number one reason is because they know the person and like the person they're talking to. So keep that in mind. Let's get those other ones done this week if you can. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. Couple of additional announcements. We have some Paul Harris Fellows that we need to recognize. And so I'll begin by doing that. Starting with Jim Ryan, who is receiving his Paul Harris Fellow +1 and Paul Harris Fellow +2 today. So Jim. All right. Sana Robinson, Paul Harris Fellow +4. Jay Evans, Paul Harris Fellow +2. Dan Jordan, Paul Harris Fellow +6. And last but certainly not least, although I don't know if I see him today, we can still recognize him, John Morse, Paul Harris Fellow +7. John was here, I believe, last week, but I don't know that he's here this week. I will get that to him. A couple of other announcements before we get to Happy Bucks and Jared Tanksley. The scholarship committee will be meeting after this meeting today. So see Michael Kaplan. Where is that going to be? Out there near the fireplace? Fireplace. Meeting this afternoon, Michael Kaplan, Scholarship Committee. So please be there. Also, District Governor Betty Burchett asked that I announce to you all that RLI, Rotary Leadership Institute, parts 1, 2, and 3 are being offered on August 26th at TCAT in Dixon, Tennessee. So you can contact DB if you need to know how to do that. Please come to me. Again, that's Rotary Leadership Institute, parts 1, 2, and 3 on August 26th at TCAT in Dixon. And with that, Jared, I'll ask you to do Happy Bucks.
Well, thank you. Today is the 50th anniversary, is that correct?
Not today. No, it's just the year of the 50th year, but it's very
Say
exciting.
today.
The whole year is exciting.
Probably needs to donate today.
All right, every week, we recite the four-way test. Our club is very unique in that we have not 4, but 5, because of one of our members who is celebrating a birthday this weekend. And I am not a song leader, so I'm not singing happy birthday to our friend Jim Billers. But in honor of Alan Treadway, I have a birthday party tomorrow for one of my grandsons who's turning 5. And I walked into my bank this morning, unloaded my wallet and said, I need this much in $2 bills to put in a birthday card. So I walked in here in honor of Alan without a dollar bill, and Jim Billers gave his own dollar for
To celebrate his
Happy
birthday.
Bucks for me to wish him a happy birthday, Jim Billers.
Happy birthday, Jim.
Happy birthday, Jim. Happy, who's happy? All right.
I'm just giving money because Jared asked me.
Michael Kaplan. Hey, Little. Steve Hammer.
Thing about Jared that y'all have to know, he prospected me to do a whole sponsor. He's going to his own Rotarians to try to get people to do it. Good job, Jared.
Anybody else?
After last week's story, I have something different today. 60 years ago today, George Barrett and Jocelyn Wood got married.
Hey, congratulations. 60 years. It's a big deal.
Anybody else? Up front? Anyone?
Alan, do you have
I
money?
do have football schedules, and they will be ready next week or 2 weeks from now when the speaker comes to talk about football.
Hey, I have an announcement, at my church on 516 Franklin Road in Brentwood, right across from the country club. We're having a consignment sale. The only reason I'm announcing this to you because it is upscale and the prices will blow you away. Just about anything you might want. So you need to come out tomorrow. It's half price. Thank you.
Alan Treadway,
Get the money first.
How much is that?
$5.
Yeah. 50 years ago, with American Graffiti, I did not see that. So, but I saw the reruns and, mysterious blonde in the T-Bird. Who is she? There you go.
Anybody else? All right, Drew, that's it. I'm sorry, one more.
Just a dollar for our Auburn guest.
Yeah, War Eagle. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Jared, and thank you, everyone. With With that, I will turn it over to Bert Bradford to introduce our guest speaker. Bert?
How tall are you? Today our speaker is Alan Arender. He is, how do you say that? Okay. Alan joined the Holiday Properties in 2006 and has more than 17 years of experience in commercial real estate in the real estate industry. From the Nashville, Tennessee office, he has led the redevelopment and new construction development of more than 1 million square feet of commercial office, medical office, warehouse properties in Nashville. Alan is leading the redevelopment of projects that include the Factory of Franklin, Donaldson Plaza, converting office complexes to workforce housing, and development of Airport Logistics Park, a 100-acre business park development adjacent to the Nashville Airport. He's also responsible for Holiday's efforts for the development of new offices in Orlando, Florida, and Savannah, Georgia. During this time, Alan has led projects that have received local and national and excellent development awards, such as NAIOP, Urban Land Institute, Metro Nashville Historic Commission. Alan has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Mississippi State and an MBA from Notre Dame. And he holds active real estate license from the state of Tennessee, and he's on the board of directors of numerous groups, nonprofits. He is accompanied today by Karis Campbell, who will give us a little bit of a history on the factory. So welcome our guest speakers.
6 foot, about one. Yeah, so do I need to speak here? Yeah, okay. All right, got you. Well, thanks for having us. It's fine. I like to move, but I'll stay still. What Drew didn't say is that we tried to get our kids to act the way his did in church and were very unsuccessful. But thanks for having us. Again, we're here to talk about the factory today. If any of you were at Franklin noon, you may have seen some of this, but there's new stuff today. I told Drew there's a couple things that haven't been widely shared yet, and so this will be the first time you see some of it. And go through a few things, kind of factory history, some of the branding work we're doing, factory future, what's coming, and happy to answer any questions. People want to stop me, I get something you want clarity on or have a question, throw your hand up. Happy to informally go through this. So first is Karis. Come on up, Karis. The story, there's not many projects around that have a historian as part of the team, the redevelopment. And so the Karis's story is long, but long story is she did a master's thesis in Rome about the redevelopment of the factory. And she showed up about 2 months after we bought it. And we're like, we absolutely need Karis. So Karis does, I'll let her take it away from here.
Thanks for having us, y'all. Also 6 footer, so it's perfect height. For a little bit more context for why I'm working with the factory, it wasn't just a surprise pick. I actually grew up in Cool Springs, so I was very familiar with it. So it felt like the obvious choice for a thesis topic. I know we want to get to the exciting things that are coming, so I'll keep my portion brief. But I do like to start a little timeline so you can tell where we're going to go through factory history. So we start all the way back in October of 1929. And at its core, the factory story and its relationship with Franklin is one of adaptability. So early on, Franklin needed an industrial powerhouse in the community, or they risked becoming absorbed into Nashville. And so in 1929, when a Nashville-based plant called Allen Manufacturing Company reached out, it felt like the obvious choice for a first major industry down in Franklin there. So they're a stove maker. They got started in October of 1929 after the community banded together to raise $175,000 in stock purchases to help fund that new construction. That's not really a big number around town these days, but it's actually the equivalent of around $3 million that the community banded together to raise to bring that new industry to town. And from then on, Franklin and the factory have enjoyed a really reciprocal relationship. So for instance, the factory, once it started, is able to provide over 300 jobs under Allen Manufacturing Company. But when Allen Manufacturing Company, the Great Depression hits, they're not able to maintain production. So as early as 1932, they're declaring bankruptcy. They're no longer able to operate. 300 folks, around 10% of the population is about to hit unemployment. So it's really tricky to get industry started in Franklin. And that's when another Nashville-based industry reaches out. So there's some pictures of the new Allen plant and some of the stoves that were made there. But what saves Franklin is actually another Nashville-based stove works named Dorch. Dorch might sound familiar. We've got his name on the building still. And his plant in Nashville is also in some trouble. So when he gets news of a new plant down in Franklin that's on the auction block, he's ready to get started. He buys it for only $60,000. And right away, he's getting some folks employed. So he encourages his Nashville employees to move to Franklin. He also searches locally for employment. And at their peak of operations, they're employing over 500 people. They're actually the only industry in Franklin to employ over 100 people for around a decade there. So they're a real economic driver, and their success encourages other industries to move to town too. So shortly after Dorch gets started, O'Brien Manufacturing Company comes to town. These days we're home to Nissan North America, Mars Pet Care, soon to be In-N-Out Burger. So Dorch's success from the 30s to the 50s is not, necessarily the first step to getting our animal style fries, but they're certainly one of the dominoes that put us on that path. After Dorch operated for 22 years from 1933 to 1955, they were struggling to keep up with some new market appliances. So they were absorbed with Magic Chef Inc. Their name might sound familiar. They're still making kitchen appliances. I know I saw a fridge from Magic Chef at Lowe's the other day, so they're still going strong. But their legacy in Franklin is short-lived. So they're only in operation around 6 years here in Franklin. And that time is actually almost halved in 1958. So there's a downturn in the market appliance. Folks just aren't buying appliances anymore. And so the city's really concerned about losing this major source of economic opportunity. So they say, hey, what if we buy the plant from you and then we release it back to you at a favorable rate? So Magic Chef is amenable to that. Who doesn't like a giant check? And so they put out $600,000 of industrial bonds. So again, our stories went a cycle. So the community bands together, they purchase up all those bonds in just a couple of weeks. And now those folks that might not have been involved in bringing the factory to Franklin in the 20s have their own stake in keeping it in town in the late 50s there. So it's a really reciprocal relationship, a really tight bond that gets reinforced over the years. Unfortunately, that giant paycheck isn't enough to keep Magic Chef afloat both in Franklin and in Cleveland, Tennessee. So in 1961, they closed up shop in town, which leads to our final and longest running manufacturer, Jameson Bedding Company. They might sound familiar. Their logo was on the water tower for over 30 years. We still have folks come through that remember when they or family members worked there. And they're a really well-known community name, in part because of the major discount sale they used to hold twice a year. So whenever they had outdated stock, they put it out for sale at the front of the property. So we've got stories of folks lining up along the gate, ready to run in, grab the tag for their new sleeper sofa before the neighbor can get to it there. So really important in the community, one of the longest running and strongest employers for the Franklin area. But unfortunately, time caught up with them. So by 1991, the building itself is 62 years old and it's starting to show some wear and tear there. It's seen some really significant manufacturing. Leaks are springing up all over the place. There's some structural concerns. And in general, the market technology that is used for manufacturing these products advances so much that the space isn't suitable anymore. So in 1991, they closed up shop here in Franklin. They shuttled their departments across the Southeast. And for a brief period, the factory sits empty. The city still owns the property, but they're struggling to find somebody that wants to rent out 350,000 square feet of used industrial space. Anybody that's going to take it on is going to have to spend a lot of time and money to get it up to code there. So the longer it sits, the worse it gets. So you can see some pictures here of the serious decay it was in between 1991 to 1996. But luckily, Franklin's a historically minded town, so the industrial age of the factory might not have been historic yet, considering it was only about 4 years old. But a lot of folks recognized its impact to the community, knew that it was important and worthwhile to preserve for future generations. So they reached out to a local businessman, preservationist. He's also an aviator. You might remember Calvin Lehue, still around, still likes to come by the factory there. And he is responsible for the renovations of the late 90s. So taking that from the used industrial space it was to the mixed use community hub we know and love today. And I think one of the most important he made was the inclusion of some event. So before Calvin's arrival, there aren't any large event venues in Franklin. So folks are busing out of town for major life events. But now that he's got a couple of venues, including Liberty Hall, which is 14,000 square feet, you can have a bunch of people in there, have some important memories like weddings or concerts or proms. Help reinforce those community bonds there. So that's just another way the factory is adaptable, can meet new needs in the community. And we're meeting a new one here with some more restaurants. Exciting things coming that Alan will tell you all about.
Thanks, Karis. Yeah, we need to do the history at the end. Karis is really hard to follow with that. She she does tours. You can get on our website and see and take you around, but you can't really tell the story of what's happening at the factory without a look back at where it's been and the importance it has had to the community. So this is what the site looks like now, from aerial. It's big. It's about 20 acres. We have close to 300,000 square feet there. And this is where we're headed with the future. There's a lot of conversation about what will become a factory district. And there's several aldermen and city planning people that want to see this area have some intentional planning and density around it to support the factory. And there's going to continue to be more conversation about that. But the premise of our efforts to redevelop it are really creating an experiential site that has a lot of retail. It's going to have a lot of shopping, a lot of food, but also events. Kara's talked about the events. Probably a lot of you have been to an event there, and that's the connection that so many people have to the factory. Is they've had weddings, they've had proms, they've had corporate events, you've had nonprofit events. So everybody has a great affinity for what the factory has been. And it's really just a place to spend free time, lose time, interactive experiences. March is going to be different from July. We'll have one of the things, when Calvin redeveloped it, at that time, everything was indoors. So you went in to do anything. That was one of the big opportunities we saw, were lots of space to energize and engage the outside. So we've got these courtyards coming that I'll show more about that. 24/7 population eventually here. We're working on plans to do a hotel on the site and hopefully some residential as well. Talked about a history tour, factories, farmers market, and Wondarium. More details to come on that. And then in Rotary style, we don't have a 4-way test. We have a 3-way test. And this is kind of our vision, values of the factory. And it's when people show up here, this is what we want you to feel. You may not recognize you feel these things, but this is how we look at the lens we're looking through to kind of make decisions about who's occupying the factory, what activities we have. And does it elicit wonder? Does it make you smile? Does it bring people together? And that's kind of that's the test we have as we're going forward. You've probably seen some of this. You've seen some of the brand come through. The factory name itself was great. We didn't see, no need to do anything with that. We just freshened up the look and the feel of the logos and added this character, Frank. You'll see more Frank as we evolve and more things are happening. Frank will be a big part of telling the story of what's coming at the factory and what's happening. So these are the early areas of focus around the site. So what you see in red is kind of new, not a lot of changes to the building, but really just freshening those up. If you've been lately, you notice the big new steel doors coming in. That's going to continue around the buildings. And we've changed some parking. We're picking up about 40 spaces on the site with some of the changes that we've made, and we're pulling some closer to the activity center of where people primarily enter and get to the restaurants. Take a breath. Does anybody have any questions before I keep rolling? Good. All right. So this is the first step, was the Skylight Bar. If you remember walking in 3 years ago, you walked into the front entry and there was like a reception desk there that it's almost like there was somebody there to greet you, but it kind of felt like you had to check in to come in, and you went around the bathrooms to kind of see what was this big expansive space. That was the first thing that we saw coming in, is like the architecture and the energy that the space can have when we open it up, give you a whole different experience coming in. And so this was the first step. The bar there opened in April and has been doing great, considering that there's also not really anything else open other than Mojo's. We get tacos. Talked a little bit about outdoor areas. These are kind of the 4 nodes that we're looking at. The water tower clearly is the icon here. And so for a long time, the water tower had been closed off. It's been fenced off out of fear of people climbing the water tower. So we are opening that up. It'll be a park area under the water tower. It's got different legs on it now that hopefully you can't figure out how to climb, who knows? But the intent of that is that is outdoor space. You can get ice cream, you can get a donut, you can get a drink, you can go out and hang out under the water tower, let kids run loose, that kind of stuff. Also, to the left of that main entry, that patio will be more of we're keeping all the trees that are there and really have a nice shady courtyard and deck that will be right outside of where Edley's is going in the building. And then up where the Honest Coffee entrance is, where Rusty is, he's the big mechanical man that a lot of you know. So that area gets improved. That'll also be a good outdoor space. Hattie B's is going there. There'll be Hattie B's on one side, Etch on the other, and Honest Coffee kind of in front of you. So Hattie B's is right here. Etch is in the old Viking space. And then Honest Coffee is right here on this corner. Edley's is going right here. And then the big news this week was Sapphire coming back. All right, so Sapphire is coming right here under the water tower. That's going to be, people were very excited. That was when, as we started working on this, people in Nashville were always telling us that when I would leave, I'd go from Nashville to go to Sapphire. A lot of people remember Sapphire, have good memories of it. Yeah, so we started working with Tom and his team soon after we kind of got our feet on the ground of how to make that happen and bring them back. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then back here in the back, the other big monument, there's the smokestack. And so under the smokestack courtyard, we have hardscape improvements and addition of a carousel. You'll see some of that. I'll click through these kind of quick. This is that area under the water tower and a rendering of where we're headed with that. Then this is the area that would be in front of Edley's. So this will be Edley's right here. And this outdoor space under all the trees. So really getting that activation on the front of the buildings. And then this is along Liberty Pike, another view of that water tower where we've made some changes to the parking, get parking closer to the buildings. This is Etch going all along right here. And then right here is Two Hands Cafe, which is like an all-day Australian cafe. They opened their first location in Nashville earlier this year. So this is, real estate guys. Let's see Alan Treadway here. I don't know who else is in here, but this is what we have left, and this is not updated. What we have available is this big space here is about 5,000 square feet for retail. And then this in the back is about 20,000 square feet. That's likely office, may have a little retail on that, but most of the rest of this is leased. We're about 90% leased and about 30% occupied, which means a ton of work happening out there. We have 4 general contractors working for us, and then we have another about 10 that are tenant contractors that are doing work within the spaces. So it's organized chaos right now, but our construction management team's doing a great job keeping it as tight as we can. So let's see. There's the little bit of the tenant map. I don't know how well you can see that, but a lot of the names we talked about, Edley's, the bar, Skylight Bar, Sapphire is actually not even on this one yet. Jenny's, Two Hands, Etch, a handful of retail space. We've got the art gallery there. Mojo's is staying. That's where they've been for a while. Five Daughters stays. We're adding Otaku Ramen. And then down here across from Honest Coffee is going to be New Orleans Po' Boy restaurants called White Alligator. Will be their first location. The individual that started restaurants in California, he grew up in New Orleans. They moved to Franklin, and he's going to do this New Orleans Po' Boys shop here. And then going down the road, we got Daddy's Dogs, hot dog stand, Gray's Fine Cheese, and then we talked about Hattie B's there. There's a little bit of, I'll just run through these quick. You've seen Sapphire White Alligator, Honest Coffee. If you haven't been lately, Honest Coffee just opened their redeveloped space. That's a glimpse of what's to come. If you had seen Honest Coffee before, you go back now, it's night and day difference. Really great looking space that they've created. We'll have Etch, Edley's, Hattie B's, Two Hands Cafe, Otaku Ramen, Gray's Fine Cheese. A lot of the names that people associate with the factory, Five Daughters grew up at the factory. So did Franklin Juice, and then Jenny's. And all of these, Mojo's, Skylight Bar, Daddy's Dogs, all those things will be opening from September until about May or June next year. That's really the timeline. Most everybody is under construction at some phase right now. So this time next year, everybody will be open and be a lot. So the other piece of what we're trying to offer here is there's lots of places to eat and shop in Franklin, Cool Springs area. We want the experience here to be different. And so we're doing a lot of things around being very intentional about what we're doing there. If you remember when you used to come in when you walked into the front of the factory at the left on your entry, there was a artist in there, Ken Means, who hand carved all these carousel animals. So he hand carved, hand painted them. And he had to move to another spot, but we're building a building to put his carousel in it. That's probably a year before that really is active, but it's going to be a super unique, one of a kind type experience there. And that'll go back here in this back area where the smokestack, I showed the smokestack area. That smokestack's about right here. The carousel building's here, and then we reconfigure some parking back here in the back. So that's one piece. This is new. Nobody's really seen this yet. There's been a lot of talk about the farmer's market. This is where we see the future farmer's market at the factory. The carousel building's right here. And then the entry, like a lot of people go to Mojo's in here, but this is where we will have a future farmer's market at the factory. And it lays out pretty similar to what's there. It's just a lot more efficient. We fit about the same numbers of vendors and use about 80 less spaces. I know everybody, that's an important part of what's happening there. So more to come on that. You'll start seeing that become more public here soon. And then Studio 10, that's another. So a lot of you may have been to events in the theater before, and Studio 10 has performed at that theater for the last about 10 years, but it's very temporary. Every time they came in, they have to build a new set. They had to, the seating was movable. It was a very temporary feel. And so working with them, we got to a partnership where 6 months of the year, they're going to program live the musical theater plays, that kind of stuff. And then the other 6 months of the year, we'll have it for events or music or those kind of activities. It'll be about 350 seat theater. So like real ramped up seating, has a balcony. It'll feel really unique. There's a lot of interest in this, doing some music type things when Studio 10's not in session here. And then let's see, this is a look. That room can convert to another event space, a little bit smaller than Liberty Hall. If you've been to a big event in Liberty Hall, this would accommodate about half the size of what we can do at Liberty Hall. And then more experienced stuff. This is Karis. This is her walking tours. Again, she does a great job. It's about 45 minutes, walks you around, tells you a lot of that history, and has been sold out all summer that we've been doing it. And we try to limit it to about 20 people. And so get out there and get a reservation for the fall. It'll be great. We also have a great artist and kind of creative director behind a lot of this stuff. His name's Bryce McLeod. He's been behind a lot of things in Nashville that you aren't aware that he's involved with, but he's been helping us tremendously. This is going to be a landing spot for him at the factory. He's going to create more and more activations and unique new things. This is what's happening now. It's called the Idea Generator. They actually have a little podcast going with it as well. but you can come drop ideas in the sheet. You can on Wednesday, I think it's like every other Wednesday we're doing it. You can come and he'll interview you with one of his partners and they'll talk about your idea, and it's just fun. And then back to doing weddings and receptions for a long time. Weddings were shut out of the factory. We've opened that back up. This was the first one that happened this summer. This is what that looks like and how that's set up. So the Liberty Hall is the largest event venue in Franklin. It's about 20,000 square feet. And so lots of flexibility of what that space can be and do. And then this past weekend, we'll talk a little bit about music. This past weekend, we had American Idol people, semifinalists. So that's this shot. I don't know what the count, they'd sold about 700 tickets to that event, but that space, we want to see more of that kind of activity here. So there's your tagline, producing smiles on an industrial scale. That kind of goes back to those three things, but that's the quick overview. So happy to answer anything I can.
Hey, Alan, I'm Sana Robinson with T. Rice Partners. I'm also a commercial broker, so I'm very excited about
Great.
what you're doing down there. There was a book that came out, I'm sure Karis knows about it, about the Boiler Room Theater, which used to be there and has tons of history. My son acted there when he was in high school. It just goes way back. Any chance Jamie Green and his crew or some other person might be able to resurrect something in that space that would echo what happened before? I know it's an event venue now, but
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on there.
So there's something coming. Right now that space is leased. We have to answer your question, I can't talk about it yet, but there are plans. You're going to see the tenant that occupies that space now will continue to do that through the rest of their lease. He will partner with this other group that we have coming in that's going to do some acting type activity there. It'll be a lot of fun. Give me a month or two.
You had mentioned that there are plans for some multifamily and some other things. Talk a little bit about how much of that campus that you have and how you would build that. And then the second part of that is, I know that the city of Franklin and Williamson County are doing a lot of things to beautify some of the major corridors going into Franklin. And how are they coordinating that with you?
Yeah. So we have, like I said, we have about 20 acres on the site. The first step of this will be the hotel. We have about 110, 120 room hotel that will start not until late this year, that we'll start working on plans of where that goes. The apartment or condo or residential piece is down the road. We'll get the hotel first, but the large parking lot in the back, there'll still be surface parking, but there probably will end up being some structured parking there to accommodate all that. And then let's see, the streetscape. I mean, what's happened along Franklin Road connecting the factory to downtown, people I don't think really recognized until the summer that it was open. So you see a little bit of activity. I think this fall when the weather's nice, you'll see a lot more people using those sidewalks. But there's another project happening on the south side of downtown on Columbia Avenue. And with what's happening at the factory and those connections with the sidewalks, I mean, you're effectively adding about a half mile each direction to downtown's traditional footprint. So you're really expanding what the area of downtown Franklin is, and it opens up some more opportunities. And some of there's the walking path that's going across the Harpeth through Harlansdale. If you don't know about that, that's going to be a huge connection that gives you this great loop to get from kind of the west side of Franklin, West Haven area back through Harlansdale to downtown, back around. It's going to be a great loop dropping over the Harpeth. So the real key here is around the factory in this district is walkability, ability to bike, do things like that. there is a limit. People ask about parking a lot. I don't know how much parking you would have to build to be confident that you could house every bit of parking that you need at a peak time, right? That's really hard to quantify. We need people to be able to walk here, to bike here, to get around. So. What else? You got one? Hey, man. It is. They're not open now. I don't think that'll be a long-term condition. There's stuff, yeah. Good. Thanks for having us.
Alan, thank you very much. And Karis, thank you for sharing a little bit about the history of the factory. I know there's a lot of anticipation about what is about to happen next. But everyone in the club will be happy to know that you have a gift for our speaker this afternoon. Thank you. So supply chain issues have lifted. We do have a gift for the speaker. So Alan, if you'll please join me up here, I would appreciate that. We have a pen to offer you.
Great.
It is engraved with the name of our club, and it's intended to be a gift from our club to you so that you can remember your time here. We would ask that you would use that pen to sign this book, which is a book that we read to first graders in the Williamson County area. We will talk to them about your time when you came and visited with us. So Alan, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
A couple of quick closing announcements. Remember that Chief Goss led the Battle of the Badges discussion, so please go and support that. Remember that there are 49 sponsors slots still available from last year, and we need to really close the gap quickly. We've got a golf tournament coming up on September 11th, so just ask, right? Scholarship committee meeting is going to be held out here in front of the fireplace. And to our guests, Karis, Matt, Brooke, Leanne, Tracy, and Lloyd, thank you for being here. We enjoy having you, and we hope that you'll consider coming back again sometime soon. Please help put away the tables and chairs if you can stick around for a few minutes to do that. We're stacking in stacks of 8 by the table. We don't move them against the wall. I'm following instructions well. So if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, then we are adjourned. Thank you.